This video tutorial shows other conditions to configure the class units. Each block within the class units list has its own properties window in which you can set different options, both strict conditions and preferences. Class units within a simultaneous chain share the same properties window. This properties window has different tabs on which the available options are shown. In the tab Assignments, you can view the elements that make up the current class units. From this window, you can modify the assignments as well as from the same list. In the tab Other Options, you have different preferences. You have the possibility to avoid the coincidence of more than 50% of class units during the first or last periods. Another option would be to avoid finishing the day with a given subject and starting the next day with the same subject. These preferences are associated with an optimization criterion. In this case, the weight given to the criterion "do not coincide at the ends" is the one that is applied to the first three options of this tab. You can also indicate if you want these class units to coincide or not to coincide in the same time slot. This preferential condition also has its corresponding weight during the optimization process. The option of not allowing breaks between the double or triple class units is no longer a weighted preference, but a condition that will be strictly observed in the results. For the subjects that are taught 2 or 3 days a week, you can avoid that they are placed on consecutive days, or on the contrary, look for them to be on consecutive days. In both cases, this condition can be observed in a strict and a weighted way. In the General Options window, within the Class Units tab, you can find the initial values for the conditions previously exposed when inserting new class units. From this window, you can use the ToList button to assign a certain value to all the class units that exist in the list. An interesting condition between different blocks of the list of class units is to force that their corresponding class units are taught on different days. To do this, select the On Different Days tab and the Add button. The relationships established here will appear in the properties windows of both blocks of class units. The establishment of this condition will allow us to divide a subject to configure its class units separately. For example, to establish a division in one of the class units. In this case, we can see how one of the physics class units has a laboratory with another teacher, dividing the groups of students. The same idea could be applied to consider particular conditions on any of the class units of a subject, such as being taught in another classroom. That is, the condition on different days allows you to configure the class units of a subject separately, forbidding them to fit on the same day. Although it would also be useful, for instance, to prevent a tutor from having a tutorial on the same day he teaches his primary subject to his group. A command that makes it easy to add new class units on different days is duplicate blocks. This command copies the row or chain of class units, allowing the automatic entry of such condition. During the validation of the configuration data, the conditions on different days are verified. There is a process that allows to introduce or eliminate automatically the condition on different days between all those blocks that have the same subject and the same group of students. The tab Non-Consecutive forbids different blocks of class units from being consecutive. That is, they are taught at contiguous intervals of the timetable. This condition can be considered taking into account that breaks separate the class units. In the General Windows option, in the Remote Groups tab, you can register groups that are in remote classrooms. Thus, the necessary non-consecutive conditions will be automatically entered among all those class units that require teachers to move. We can see how, in this case, many conditions have been introduced among all those class units that correspond to teachers who share timetable with remote groups and require a traveling time. The Consecutive tab gives the possibility of consecutive class units. This condition can be considered taking the breaks into account. To do consecutive class units, they must be taught in the same number of days. You can make up to 3 consecutive blocks. You may establish an order or indicate that the class units are taught on the same day without necessarily being consecutive. We also have the possibility of allowing other weekly distributions. This option is especially useful for configuring subjects with a high weekly load, such as vocational modules. There is the possibility of allowing other distributions in a flexible way. defining a daily maximum. Optionally, you can penalize the blocks of maximum size, forbid the class units of a single interval, or allow discontinuous intervals. Detailing other distributions forces the user to add the alternatives directly. Thank you for your attention.